Welcome back. As the new incoming member of WHO's executive board, Malaysia has taken the opportunity to raise some less mentioned concerns. The Prime Minister has commented on how the pandemic has impacted mental health and social well-being of Malaysians. Muhyiddin added that Malaysia is looking forward to work closely with WHO and other countries via strategic partnerships. It's said that 53% of Americans have been impaired by the pandemic, 500,000 more in the UK. We hope to glean some stats of this very busy man, bringing in consultant psychiatrist and director at UMCares, Dr. Amir Siddiq joins me right now. Doctor, welcome. Thanks for being with us. Do you have any stats at this point at all as to where Malaysia's mental health is? Hi, Doctor.
Hello.
Hi,
Yeah, hello there,
welcome.
Jessica. I'm having some difficulties in actually hearing you.
Okay, I'll just repeat the question. First of all, thanks for joining us. Do you have at this point any stats available as to where Malaysia's mental health is?
Well, as you shared just now, prior to COVID, it was about 30%, yeah? 29 point something percent. However, there's been some other stats that have been actually coming out from think tanks, for example, the most recent one being Center.my, that sort of indicated that probably nearly 50% of us are struggling with some level of mental health issue during this COVID pandemic. And I think they found in their study, young people, particularly those with reduced income, those who are still living alone, for example, are at increased risk of developing mental health issues, particularly during this COVID period.
Is there anyone particularly looking at this research and looking at perhaps an average state of mental health for the average Malaysian?
I think at this point of time, there are a number of universities that are looking at things individually, but I'm not aware at the moment whether there's a big national study that's actually being done specifically looking at the situation at hand at the moment. But definitely, right. I think it's important because as we know, the information that we're getting from these studies, even the one from Center.my, for example, gives us a better way forward in trying to manage this particular situation that we're in. It doesn't help that we're consistently under the MCO like we are at the moment, and there's going to be a group of population that's going to be more affected than others because of the MCO.
One of the things, as you mentioned, during an MCO that we all had to adjust from at one point or another is working from home. And this has heightened levels of stress overall. Some experts believe that it's early signs or symptoms of what is known as GAD, or general anxiety disorder. What are your thoughts on this, Doctor?
Well, I think it's going to be definitely a risk factor for individuals who are already susceptible to develop anxiety disorders. Particularly if they're very new to working from home. But I think hopefully in 2021, people are getting a bit used to it. And also companies are supporting their employees in working from home. So there's this risk of, developing a mental illness is probably going to be low. However, definitely stress is going to be high because individuals that are working from home are not in the ideal situation, particularly in these period, because, for example, children are all at home, spouses are at home, and of course you've got to be worrying about your dollars and cents because of the economic situation that we are in as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, basically, as a nation, based on what you understand so far, is there an uptick on the number of people walking in to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, especially during the past year or so?
Definitely. I think, all the non-governmental organizations are reporting that there have been a number of calls coming in because of mental health woes. People on the ground, for example, us clinicians, even psychologists and counselors are seeing a large number of individuals coming forward relating to their mental health issue as well. Some of them sadly have frankly developed mental illnesses, particularly depression, anxiety, over the past year. And we're seeing quite a number of young people, children particularly, also coming forward, struggling as a result of this prolonged pandemic in terms of school, isolation, and other risk factors as well.
Right, and this is where I want to jump in. What should I be looking out for if, say, my stress levels are high and I'm feeling out of sorts?
Okay, so the first thing is actually if you're working, you want to know whether you're exhibiting symptoms of burnt out, yeah, feeling a bit disengaged from your work, feeling like tired, feeling a little bit, not productive. That's one of the things that you might want to look out for. For the individual, it's going to be things like mood changes and also sleep disturbances are also indications that you're probably struggling with stress, whether it's internal or external as a result of the period that we're in.
But it just seems that, these sort of stress levels or feeling out of sorts, it snowballs into the next day and into the next day. So at what point do I need to seek help? And in the meantime, how does one cope with it?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, if you're starting to develop problems with your productivity, you're starting to have problems in your functioning as an individual, either as a father, a mother, a student, a child, for example, definitely that's a sign that things are not going so well. At the same time, if you've noticed a friend having a change of behavior, from somebody being very gregarious, very active, and then suddenly becoming very quiet, that's also another change. So these are the kind of things that you look out for. Things that you can actually do for yourself. Number one is making sure that your stress levels are low. Number two, making sure that you're sleeping regularly. Number three is also making sure that you exercise as much as you're able to. These are the three things that you probably can do for yourself during this period of time.
All right. So, in the past year or so, also we've noticed that there has been more suicides, or perhaps more suicides have been reported. Is the rate of suicide a good indicator, or is that trying to solve a problem after it's too late, Doc? We don't have much time left on the clock.
Yeah, well, definitely it's not a good indicator. We want to prevent suicide. We want to make sure that we don't get people at that state at this point of time. If you're going to have a rise in people committing acts of suicide, it's actually a bit of a failure on our side in trying to get the help that they need for us during this period of time. So, making sure that people reach out, making sure that they have information and also access to help is really, really important.
Okay, we on social media, there's so much of videos and information that really attempts to help people cope with whether it's depression or anxiety. Sometimes you could perhaps say too much info, but also all this info is in a sense, it's not particularly to one individual. So how do you find that messaging? For example, they say talk within yourself, calm yourself down. You've mentioned this, de-stress, try to get sleep. But at the same time, there's so much happening on the outside. What do your peers think of all of this? And how do you find sort of the right remedy for yourself, the individual?
I think it's really important for us to first remember that one of the major reasons why we are struggling during this pandemic is because of the uncertainty of the situation, the uncertainty of our situation as well, and also the information that's just like, as you mentioned, just overwhelming out there. So I think the first thing that one wants to do is make sure that you find a website that has the right information and you stick to that website because, it's probably going to be able to control some of the anxiety that you're facing. So that's the first thing. Secondly, for the individuals, also making sure that you have a routine. And I think the routine, as I mentioned, not only includes your work routine, but also how you're living, because it sort of reduces all the uncertainty that's happening outside. So these are the things that we can do for ourselves in making sure that the information that we get is just enough. And also the work that we do is able to sort of flush out all these other noises out there.
That's right. Indeed, it's a hard time for many of us on many different levels. Dr. Amir Siddique, thank you for weighing in and thank you for sharing that. Take care and we'll speak to you soon.